Everybody, welcome to this episode of Coffee with John. Really looking forward to talking with Lori Lipten. Lori, it's great to connect with you. You're a shamanic medium. And I think to a lot of people who are listening, they may have no clue what that is. We'll get into it. You've been a great advisor to me, to my family, and I've really been grateful and appreciative to everything that the guidance that you have given all of us through the many, many, many years, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit in a little bit. So let's kind of start out pretty basic for somebody who's listening. A shamanic medium, what is that?
Right. Super easy today, in the West to understand.
Right.
There's a whole lot of reasons why I use that phrase, and it would take longer than what our little coffee talk could to allow us. But shamanic simply means that I work intentionally with the world of spirit and collaboration. And I work toward healing. And so the mediumship, or when I'm connecting with spirit, for example, my interest, my focus is a healing one. It also represents that I came to this through initiation. I didn't choose it. It isn't a path I sought out. It was a path that chose me. And I had to decide whether I was going to accept or not. And so that's really what it reflects.
So how did it choose you? I think, a lot of times, just to kind of put a little texture to that, I think sometimes whether it's in life or in business, we get a little whisper, we get a little sign.
Right.
Sometimes we ignore it. Sometimes we don't. In this case, you maybe did, or for sure you ultimately didn't, because it led you on your path. And so what were the early signs? How did you know it was choosing you? What was that?
Well, I grew up, in the West, like a lot of us, where this language was not part of my vernacular, nor was it the experience which I was raised, which was to be very science, intellectually based, and the way that I was raised. But as a kid, I had experiences that were inexplicable. Especially without that context, without the context of understanding that kids will see non-ordinary reality or spirit or things that I was experiencing. I had no context for it, but I did have early life, past life recall. I remembered my life prior to this one. And I announced in the third grade, I mean, I don't know, John, if I've ever told you this story, but when I was in the third grade, we had to do a little project on what am I going to be when I grow up? And we had to then stand in front of the class and read it. And I said that I was going to be a psychologist because I had returned to the earth to help people to love more. And, I'm so glad I said it too young to know what that sounded like.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know what I was saying, but it's interesting that I know that. I know that because that piece of paper was saved and I found it when I moved my mom and dad, many, many years later. And then subsequent to that, I had experiences, encounters with spirit, where they saved my life, where they gave me guidance, where I was being pulled to look at myself and reality in ways that were not ordinary. And I didn't feel like I was losing my mind, but I really didn't understand what was happening. And then I had a significant dream in my 20s where a Native American man pointed to me and said the phrase, "Wake up, shaman, wake up."
Yeah.
And I did wake up and thought, I am a kid that was bat mitzvahed. I don't know how that translates in being a shaman. I didn't know what it meant at all. So it just began opening with curiosity. What is this? What does it mean for me? How am I meant to use it? And I just began paying attention to what you're describing as the whispers.
Yeah.
And giving it credence and saying, is this viable? Is this something can I work with this?
Yeah. All right. So let's back up. So if I'm listening to this and I'm understanding that I'm into this world, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense to me. If I'm not in this world, I'm thinking, all right, you're in third grade. You had an amazing dream, not maybe a past life. Like, how did you know? What did it feel like? How can you say with certainty to a doubter that you were actually connecting to your past life? And then if you can move into when you say you were pulled, like what does that mean? What does that feel like?
What great question. So, first of all, let me say this. I don't think that I can convince any doubter. But what I can do is share with anyone who's curious and not having this experience is that even today, I live in a state of curiosity and wonderment about it. So I don't come to a profound conclusion. I'm like, what does this actually mean? Why am I feeling just like you?
Yeah.
As a kid, I just had this awareness. I remember kind of looking down, going, I used to be in a male body and it was a dark body. And I remember telling my mom and dad, I lived in an ashram. And they're like, how do you know the word ashram? And I said to them, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I can't give you a lot of good explanation as a kid, other than it was just an internal awareness that I didn't come to a conclusion. No, this means past lives. It was more like, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right. And you dove in. Right.
Yes.
And so you were pulled in. What sounds like what I'm hearing you say is you were pulled in through curiosity.
Exactly right. Exactly.
And so does that curiosity then it just keeps on showing itself the next steps? Like what does that feel like on a continual basis for you?
It kept showing sort of becoming a stronger internal voice. And then I had experiences, John, that could not be explained away. And so the most profound experience was when I was 17. Again, I don't know if you know this story, but when I was 17, I got into a car, and I'm going to shorten the story. It's a really good story, but I'm going to shorten it for the sake of the podcast. And that is for your listeners to hear. I got into this car. I was in a car full of girls in the front seat, bench seat. For those of you who are in my age group, you'll know what I'm talking about, in the center. And I heard a male voice say to me, get out of the car. Now I'm 17 and about to graduate. So I've partaken in some alcoholic beverages, and I was curious, didn't understand it, didn't know what it meant, had never heard of a spirit guide or anything. So I couldn't even fit it into anything. And I kept looking for who is the guy. And my girlfriends in the back seat were like, you're a little cuckoo. What are you talking about? We're not talking to you. Because I said, are you telling me to get out of the car?
Yeah.
And they said, no. And I heard it again. And then I got, get out of the car now. And I got lifted up and thrown over my girlfriend and thrown onto the concrete.
Energetically.
And it was bizarre. And I was, what is this? What is happening? And I did not understand it. And I certainly didn't tell anybody, because then they were going to be like, she's, let's check her in. But what ended up happening is that car was in a fatal car crash. And I survived. And my friends survived, but another person, hit their demise. And so it was shocking and horrifying. And I did not share this with people, but I told my dad. And my dad was a physicist and engineer. So a science guy. Okay. So It's important to say that, not somebody that believed in this. And my father
black
said,
and white, black engineers are typically very black.
Yeah, very black and white.
There's no gray, not a lot of gray always.
My dad was a questioner of things, that he was, but he liked the rational world, the scientific, provable world. And when I told my father what happened, his response to me is, whenever you hear that voice, promise me you'll listen, because it saved his daughter's life, right? So for him, it was like, I don't know what it is. He didn't try to explain it away, and he didn't really he wasn't more curious about it, but he allowed me to be. And so that's what happened, is that experience then led to me, let me pay attention to this voice. Where is it leading me? And it was always leading me to safety or something better.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. So you're hearing things, you're pulled in many, definitions today. You're moving kind of step by step. You go to a mentor, in this case, your father, who I would say maybe expands the energy because of the acceptance of it, regardless if he believes in it. You're giving it some credence. You're giving it energy. Uh, at that point, how did you know if it was good energy or bad energy, right? How were you able to understand? Because I think if somebody's listening, they're thinking to themselves, well, how do I know what good versus bad feels like, light or dark?
For me, it was putting it to the test. And I still teach that when I teach intuition. I put it to the test. I listened and I paid attention. Is this leading me to something better, or is this leading me to something destructive? And it was always leading me to something shockingly better, like way better. And so I learned to have discernment with it. And I still have discernment with it. I'm always, part of me is learning. How do I discern? Is learning to meditate and pay attention. What does my mind sound like? What do my beliefs sound like? And feel like when I follow them versus when I follow that which I claim is not my mind. And when I follow that, it has a much more loving, expansive tone and quality. And the outcomes almost always lead to something better than what I could have ever imagined myself.
So let's talk about the tone, right? So does your tone, so let's talk, if you can get to this, let's talk kind of gifts, and now current gifts, right? Was there a certain frequency on how you move through your world and your day? And was there a certain frequency to your tone? And as you begin to hone your gifts, is the frequency higher? Is it a different frequency? Is it do you vibrate at a different level now versus when you were 15 because of the gifts? I just want to give people kind of a feel for that.
I would say probably yes. I haven't thought about it in that context, but I like the way that you're framing it. And so there's probably truth to there's a different frequency. Yes. And I'm getting a yes on that one as I'm saying it. And and I would say it's having a pillar, I would call a pillar framework, a foundation of curiosity and compassionate witnessing. I don't attach to it. I don't make it mean something. If I don't know what it is, I stay curious about it. I don't even feel strongly that I need to prove to anybody that this is what it is. I really describe it more as my experience. Right. My frequency, I would say my orientation is one of gratitude and service. And what most excites me and interests me, and see it starting to make me emotional as I'm speaking about it, is I feel like I'm here to serve and connect to love as much as possible, and to help people live in that space. So whether they think of that as spirit or love or kindness, I don't care. Right. I care more about where's it bringing you? Is it bringing you fulfillment or not?
I love everything that you're talking about. I want to share something that sometimes I do when I'm speaking to clients or groups and I'm coming from a business and sales and leadership coach perspective, but because I want to talk about intuition and gut, because you mentioned that, because you teach intuitiveness and intuition. And sometimes what I walk people through a very quick exercise. I ask everybody to close their eyes and think of themselves on a line. And then I give them 10 seconds. And then I say, okay, well, picture just what does that feel like? And now go below the line. What does that feel like? Give them 10 seconds. Now go back to the line. What does that feel like? Now go above the line. What does that feel like? Now go back to the line. And I would say across the board, people say, okay, at the line feels fine, very neutral, safe. Below the line, not safe. Above the line, in their right, feeling great. So I say, okay, use that exercise to help you tap into your gut and intuition before you, so you can respond and not react, right? I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, right? Those who can't.
No one is.
Right. So I'm a work in progress, as I know, and we've talked about this. We all are. But when it comes to intuition, there's a lot of noise today. There's a lot of noise, and it's hard to, I think, and I talk to a lot of people who say this, to hear your own voice, to get out of your head and tap into your gut.
I'm going to say tap into your heart.
And tap into your heart. So kind of talk about that. Give people kind of a formula for that
So I use the formula I use is to attune, align, and allow and appreciate. Attune, align, allow, appreciate, and ascend. You can even add to, but those three, the first three, are the most significant in the beginning. It's to attunement, which is what you're doing, which is bringing yourself into the whatever that line is and bringing it above the line if you want to feel good. I would say drop into your heart, drop into your body. In other words, bring your awareness into your body, bring it into your heart, and then focus on something that invites compassion or awe or wonderment within you. It could be a place in nature, a pet, a person. People get more complicated. So pets in nature tend to activate our heart, and we start to feel, oh, when you look at the little kitty picture or whatever it is, you start to feel good. That is expansive. That's expansion. That to me is the beginning of being above the line that you're describing.
Yeah.
And then notice when you start to contract. So when you're in expansion, you're tending to be in alignment with your intuition. And when you're in contraction, you're tending to be in alignment with what I would call the ego or the false self or the self that you've learned or conditioned, right? That doesn't necessarily have all the information. And so contraction is the clue that there's something amiss, something's out of alignment, and I can bring myself back into alignment. Couple deep breaths, calming the nervous system, stepping back into the field of the heart chakra or the heart awareness. That will expand, and then that opens you to what I call the pathway of the higher truth. And there's some really cool energetic, there's some really nice science around this. I just did a talk about this at a conference for psychologists and psychotherapists about how to trust that intuition and how to work with their clients to calm the nervous system enough, because all of us are overstimulated and overwhelmed. And so breathing, breath work, meditation, there's so many practices that we can do to calm that nervous system, and then recognize that noise is information, but it may not be helpful information. Yeah. And I don't have to be listening to it. When I listen to it, it creates anxiety in me. It creates this nervous system response. And so just to calm that, don't judge it. And really don't judge anything that arises into your awareness. Learn to discern. Is this coming from a contracted space or below the line or above the line?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, and I think another great way to balance your nervous system, get back to center, is gratitude.
Gratitude's huge.
And so I want to talk about gratitude. I just finished this book. I'm going to send you a copy as a thank you for being on the show. It's called The Magic. It's the sequel to The Secret. And it's a book about gratitude, and it's a 28-day it's a book with 28 days of 28 exercises, an exercise every day, which is rooted in gratitude.
That's it.
And the book, amongst many other things, talks about, how gratitude really is one of the things that can get us back to center and balance. So talk a little bit about gratitude from your lens.
I feel like it's a way of being. It's a state of consciousness. It puts you into the awareness. It's an orientation that shifts us out of identification with the ego mind, because it pulls us into the awareness that everything, let me at least say this, the possibility that everything and anything that is happening in your world is happening in service of your highest good. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a relationship with the universe where you sense or believe or come to the understanding that everything is designed in service of your highest good, then everything becomes a point of reverence and gratitude and sacred, right? Yeah. Because it's all happening for you.
Yeah.
And that's an orientation through which I live. And so everything is something to be grateful for, even when it's hard, even when something is challenging. And I get presented challenges, you know that, John, and I, like we all do, life. And so I stop, I pause, and I'm like, okay, how is this happening for me? And what is this trying to show me? Because it wants something from me. The universe is always wanting to expand. It's always pulling us into that evolution and expansion. And if I'm walking in life with a sense of appreciation for what is, then life gives me back the bounty that it's trying to give us all. It's
Right.
constantly trying to give us this bounty, this beauty, this love. And I also believe, at least my sense is, actually it's deeper than a sense. My knowing, my heart tells me we're here to bring more love and kindness into the world, all of us, through our respective gifts, right? Yours are these, mine are these. My daughter's is different. Your kids are different. And so through those gifts, we can repair the world. We can heal the world. We can bring more. And gratitude is one way to help you discover them. Yeah.
How do people figure out what their gift is? I think that we're in a time right now where people are really trying to kind of figure that out, and more so than ever. And I think because of all the noise, because of, we could name 10, 15, 20 things right now. But how do people, I think sometimes when you're so good at something, it doesn't feel like a gift and you think everybody has that gift. But how do you guide people to understanding, figuring out, and then how to really use their gift?
I think to know your gifts is to, be willing to live with curiosity about who you are and what you do or are interested in most naturally. And so that, like you named it, right? You do it so naturally, you don't even think that it's just like it, right? And that you would do it for free if you could. And that when you do it, your tendency is, if you engage in that particular skill or whatever it is that we're describing as a gift, when you engage in it, you tend to lose time.
Yeah.
And when you drop into that space where you lose time, you're entering in, what I would call the infinite now, right? The real true point of access. It's a 0 point access. And that space is where that gift is trying to show itself.
Yeah.
And we have multiple gifts we bring, and many gifts can become revealed. The more you listen to your intuition, what I would say is that you're listening to the language of the soul. And the more you honor your soul, you're meant to embody your soul. And we are a species that hasn't done that well. And so we are at a turning point on our evolutionary space and time, if you will, where we are embodying more of the soul. And embodying more of the soul means to allow those gifts to be expressed through us with the greatest of ease and care and intentionality. Yeah. And to understand that everybody has a role to play in making this world a better place, whatever that is, through those gifts. Yeah.
I read a book probably 25, 30 years ago, Gary Zukav, The Seat of the Soul. And one of the things that, it was a beautiful book. And one of the things that stuck with me is, I may be getting some of this wrong, but the gist is correct, is he talked about the ideal person is when the personality ends and the soul begins and nobody knows.
Correct.
To your point. And so I remember reading that 30 years ago thinking, all right, I got some work to do. And so how, what would be, what would be your guidance on that for people?
Well, for me, it's a practice of, I believe that we all benefit from a meditative practice, some kind of mindfulness, compassionate awareness, something that allows you to calm your nervous system and start to have a relationship with your inner world that's functional, that's healthy, that's compassionate. That's right. That, I believe, is a huge facet of it, meditation. And I also believe that living intuitively, learning to develop your intuition as a natural sensory processing system. And so when we do that, we live more in alignment with our soul.
So alignment, meditation, inner world. Let's talk about Descartes and let's talk about Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
So if you have taken philosophy, I took it in college. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Okay. Right. Fast forward, Eckhart Tolle, you are not your thoughts, you are the observer.
Correct.
Marry that for someone when they are meditating and trying to connect with their inside world, but their head is getting in the way.
Well, you tell me if I'm answering this question. I think, therefore I am, is the reflection of what it means to be identified with the personality and the ego.
Yes.
And Eckhart Tolle is saying you can do that and live that life. And it's a limited one. However, if you just become aware of your thoughts and recognize that they're not you, they're just an aspect of you, and that you have the capacity to observe them, then you start to become curious about, well, who's the observer?
Yeah.
And how come I can observe the observer? And who is that? And then you start to understand that you are actually awareness, having an experience as consciousness.
Beautiful. Let's talk about the ego for a minute from your lens. When is it good? When does it get in the way? How do you quiet it?
Yeah, the ego, I think, is useful. It's a tool. It's meant to be a co-pilot, not the pilot. And so it gets in the way when we let it be the pilot. So, and we can all do it, and we do it particularly if we're activated. If anything's triggering us, we do it. So I don't think we should judge that. To me, it's like that old V8 commercial. I could have had a V8. I could have had a higher thought. It's like the minute I catch it, I just take a breath and go, there it is. Hi, ego. I see you. Don't be at war with it. Don't try to annihilate it. Just become the witness of it and learn what its voice is and how it tends to contract your energy. Then take that breath and let go.
Let go. I am 54 years old. My mom passed away when I was 25. And I knew about you for many, 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 many decades, for a long time. And I was always, I don't want to say I was anxious to go to you, but I wasn't ready to go to you. And then my dad passed away 10 years ago. And I thought, all right, I'm ready to go to Lori Lipten and try out what everybody's talking about. And so we've known each other for 10 years. I really didn't know what to expect. And I want to talk about what your gifts are. This session was unlike anything I've ever experienced. You shared things about my dad and my grandparents and my mom, and specifically certain things about my dad. Many people in my family, but specifically my dad, that no one could have ever Googled. It was nothing Googled. It was, I think when I tell people about you, they're like, well, do you think she Googles you? No. So there's information that you gave me. I had been going to a masseuse at the time for a while. And the day after I saw you for the first time, she was massaging my back and said, your back feels like a 7-year-old. You have no knots in your back. I don't know if I ever told you the story. You have no kinks. What changed from 2 weeks ago when you were here? So I said, I went to Lori Lipten, and she told me something, and I was able to release something because my dad came and apologized about something, and I was able to just let so many things go.
Oh, John.
So your gifts have been gifts to me. They've been gifts to my wife, gifts to my children, gifts to so many people in my family. But I think if somebody's listening to this, they're thinking, that's amazing. No way. And I'll say this before I get into my next question. I refer you a lot of people, and they always say to me, oh my God, I'll call you as soon as it's over. And I always say to them, you won't, because you're going to be like blown away of what you experience. She's going to tell you things you wouldn't have expected. And so I could go on with many, 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 many stories, but what I want to know for the listener is you get into what type of space, what type of energy to access your gifts, to then do what you said from when you were in 3rd grade and now is, bring more kindness, more love, help people, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you go to access that? How do you access that? And how do you know you're right?
Okay. Wow. Okay, first of all, thank you for that story.
Thank you. Yeah.
Beautiful reflection. I'm so moved to know that was your experience. It's profound for me because I can't possibly know what the effect is going to be. And I can't control that. I have to do the best I can to bring through the information as cleanly, as ethically, as responsibly as I know how to do. So the state that I go into, if that's what you're asking, the state that I go into is a brain state known as theta. Mm-hmm. And so I've I access that theta consciousness, and people can research theta consciousness. It's where all shamanic beings do their healing work. It's a very deep state, but I'm able to do it with my eyes open. And you know me well enough to know that there are times where I'll tell you I need to have my eyes closed because I actually have to go even deeper.
Yeah.
So in order for me to have conversation, I'm at a certain level of theta, mid theta, and I can go into a deeper state, which is called the shamanic journey, a kind of meditation that's active. And it allows me to access realms, which I know this is where your listener might go, what is she talking about? And the realm that I access is known as the Akashic realm. That's a Sanskrit word. And that Sanskrit word means the ethereal record of everything. And it fascinates me that there's a place that you can go, whatever that means, a dimension that you can access. We all can access it. And I can actually open these records of the soul and gain insight about them. And I don't do mediumship the way a typical platform or evidential medium does it. That's a different kind of practice. That doesn't mean they're not going the same place. I go for the purpose of healing. I go to serve the highest good of the individual. So that's my prayer. And so for me, then, those who come in from the other side, if you will, those who are passed away, come in with that intention because that's my invitation. That's the resonance. And so that's what's going to come through. What will serve the healing, what will serve the evolution, not just to bring evidence in. That's important, that information to be able to get your ego to listen to whatever the message might be. I have to be able to, I can't just say, there's a man here and he really loves you. And, I can't say that, or I can't Google and go, on January 12th, Joe Blow died. And, you can't, that's not a reading. What is that? Right. You can give facts to people that you could probably look up. But what's more telling is, can you really look into who is this person? How did they live their life? How did they affect you? How are you with them? And what is it they want you to know that will help change the orientation of that relationship or the way or the trajectory of your life? Now, that's a huge responsibility. Excuse my emotion, but that's a really big deal. And I don't know how come I got chosen or get to do it, but I'm grateful that I do. And I do the best that I can with it.
Well, your gifts are amazing. Why do you think you got chosen?
Well, they just did a talk at the Jewish Federation, and the rabbi told me I was asking the wrong question. She said, you shouldn't ask that question. She said to me, you should ask, I got it. Thank you. What do you want me to do with it? And that is the question. I don't know why. I mean, I have some sense that everything I'm doing in service is also helping heal me and evolve my soul. I'm learning through that process as much as everybody else. It's also helped me build trust at a very deep level, because I have to surrender the known and enter the unknown, which is like a nightmare for somebody like me, that would my persona would want to control everything. And so it's taught me to surrender that control and live more deeply in alignment with my soul. So that if that's the reason, that's part of it. It's my healing as well as helping others in reconciliation.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit because I think, we're talking about, those were beautiful stories. I appreciate you sharing. Thank you. You heard a whisper, you were open, you opened yourself up to walking into your gifts. You're walking this path and you took the first step. And I think a lot of times, whether it's becoming a shamanic medium or starting a business or, fill in the blank, I think there's a lot of courage that people need to tap into and a lot of fear to do nothing. And people are scared to take that first step. So one, to pause and know that, hey, these are my gifts. Maybe someone doesn't necessarily have to leave a job, but can do something part-time or part-time or start building something. But you had a first client, right? You took a first step with this. Yeah. That was, I'm sure, based on what you're saying, a very vulnerable place to be, to then, make money. You're a conscious capitalist, which I think is great. So am I. What guidance would you give someone to, how to take that first step?
So here's the thing that I need to say, because I think it's important. I see this with celebrities, and I don't mean to imply that's what I'm saying about myself, but I see like actors and things who are, suddenly famous and nobody saw the 10 years prior of all the work they did to get to that moment.
Yeah.
So me saying yes and having a client had about 10, 12 years prior where all of that's being honed quietly, privately in my own life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's important. I wasn't trying to make a job out of it. I was honing my understanding of what it was. I didn't even use the word intuition in the beginning because I didn't know. I just was doing the best I could to surrender this ego and open myself up to heal myself. Actually, I had some healing to do and I was interested in that. And I followed that. When it came, and so that I began to build trust with that inner voice. And then that intuition moved me beyond just my personal agenda into something bigger. So then I worked in the corporate world and it was helping me get contracts. And they called me the rainmaker, because I would look at proposals and I'd be like, okay, these are the three in my company. These are the three we put our attention on. And these are the two we can let go of. And these are going to make us 40 million. And these aren't going to make us any money. And we're going to follow that. And I would just listen to, this is what we do. This is how we propose it. And this is how we show up. And it worked. And it just kept working. And I remember my boss saying, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I'm listening to my inner voice. He goes, okay, whatever that was, I don't care. Just keep doing it. He didn't hear me. And that's okay. It didn't matter because I didn't stop it anyway.
Yeah.
And then when it came to the whole client, the first client, you're right, that was a big threshold through which I walked. And that was, now I've honed it. And it's only in retrospect that I can see that, right? In this reflective look, it looks at, I honed it. I trust it. I'm living it. I'm unapologetic about it. I'm even open about the fact that I live intuitively, but it's still quiet. It's on the down low. I don't think of myself as a medium. And then I have an encounter with an angel. Do you know this story where the angel touches my forehead, tells me about a young boy who's passed away? I make a phone call. I find out a woman I don't know, son. I make a connection. That's the first reading I ever did. It's a very strange story. I'm on the treadmill. Angel touches my forehead, tells me about a young boy named Thomas that passed away as a teenager and that his mother needed to hear from him. And so I said, what do I do with this information? I was guided on what to do. I called this woman that I knew from my daughter's play group, and that began a connection that then I ended up talking to this woman, connecting with her son. It was a life-changing encounter for her because her son came to my kitchen, stood in front of me, relayed these messages as I talked to her on the phone. I hung up the phone, I cried, and I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? And the message was, do readings. And I had no intention. I didn't want to. I want everybody to know that. I said, I don't want to. That's weird. I don't want to carry a crystal ball. I don't want to wear big earrings. I had all the bias that other people have. I don't want to live in that world. And I said, but I did make a vow. And the vow that I made when I was younger was that I was willing to turn my life and will over to God as I understood God.
Yeah.
And that vow I was willing to keep. And so I said, okay, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And then I received that guidance and I acted on it. Am I sharing more than you wanted to hear?
Oh, this is great. No.
Okay. Yeah. And so I heard that guidance and I stepped into it. And I have to say, I wasn't making a decision to turn it into a career. I was just following the guidance. And I was never planning to be a medium. And it was 2 years of doing readings that people started calling me a medium. And I'm like, I'm not a medium. I'm just a girl. I feel like I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy. I'm just a girl with intuition doing my best. And others were responding to me. But this is mediumship. This is what that is. And that's the rest is history.
Well, I mean, and I'm just going to put some business framework around that too.
Yes.
Have a product that people will buy before you actually jump in.
That's a good idea.
That's in alignment with your talent that you
right.
love, and that it's so everything you just shared, I think it's great. Those are beautiful stories. All right, let's do a quick speed round. You ready?
Yes.
What's a book, if somebody's listening right now, is there a book that somebody can read that maybe had an impact on you, that maybe you advise others to read, that can get them, kind of started, or just open up their awareness on any of this?
Well, you mentioned one of them, which is The Seed of the Soul. I love it. The other one is A Return to Love. Those were critical books for me at an early time, Conversations with God. But those are older books. Anything that's around intuitive development could be really good for somebody that's interested in this.
Yeah.
Anything written by John Holland, During Virtue, those are really credible writers.
A book that kind of got me on this journey in my early 20s was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss.
Yes, I've heard that. It's a remarkable book.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
If you could have coffee with anybody, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think maybe Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King. I'd want to know how they found the moral courage to stand up to injustice and correct it. I'd really want to hear what it was like to be inside their heart, inside their mind.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Be gentle with yourself.
Last question. One thing everybody can do to tap into a deeper level of their own intuition is?
Learn to be compassionate with your inner world. That would be the most important thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Lori, tell everybody where they can connect with you, learn more about you, get a session with you, learn about some of the events and all those things that you do, retreats, etc.
Right. So I'm at lorilipten.com, and it's pretty easy to schedule with me, though I know I'm scheduled out far ahead. I would love to hear from people if they want to. They can also email me. That information is on my website. So that's the easiest place to find.
Right. Lori, you've been a huge piece of my life, my family's life. Very grateful and appreciative that your gifts were able to do so much for all of us. And I know you do so much for so many people. I just want to end with something that you mentioned a couple of times. When you know what your gifts are, ask, in this case, God or whomever, what do you want me to do with it? And really tap in.
That's it.
Yeah.
I still ask that question. What would you have me do with this? What would you have me do with this?
That's great. Grateful for this. Give me your website one more time.
Lori Lipten with an E, LORILIPTEN.com.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you know anybody that could benefit from this talk, please send it their way. Lori, this was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John. So great to be here.